Hey, what's up, guys? I was thinking about it, and I said, what the hell? I'll go ahead and make a video about this. I had this just partially disassembled in my shop, so that makes it a little bit easier. And then, of course, this is the 30 round stick magazine, and all this has had done to it was the valve body removed. Valve body is identical to that of a Blackbird. To get it to this point, there's a couple of things, a couple of different ways to do it. This piece is from another magazine, but this is what goes up in here. Sorry, I'm not sure how badly out of frame I was, but here we go. So this piece is this piece from a different magazine. Okay, now to get the valve body off, you could grab this with a pair of pliers and loosen it. The valve body is going to be held in place in this groove up top. That'll keep it from spinning, and you can loosen it that way. You can also get like the back of a knife, provided that it's in a favorable orientation, and loosen it that way. Or just, any piece of metal that fits that nicely. This will usually break before this. And what keeps this on here is just this O-ring that we went over yesterday. It's the same size O-ring as on a Blackbird air tube. A little tidbit about these stick magazines. You can pull this off. Like, say you wanted to put a CO2 adapter in it. Some of them come out the side, and I've seen where people cut this to make it fit. You don't need to cut it, you can just pull it off. There's two types of actions to pierce the CO2 on these. Most of them are like this, but there's some real early ones that are, more traditional screw jack type deal. Okay, so let's see what's in here, which is this. Now, this seal in here is, as you can see, it's an O-ring. This is the one that gives you the most problems out of this magazine, because it's just a regular Viton O-ring, and if a CO2 cartridge gets left in here, it will crush that and deform it, and then it won't make a good seal anymore. So always take your CO2 cartridges out when you're not shooting it. You should always just shoot them empty, and if you're not gonna shoot it for a long time and you still got some CO2 in it, just go ahead and pop it out of there, or it's gonna leak here next time you go shoot it. We'll see if we can get this out. Probably be easier on the expansion chamber. This is the hardest O-ring to get in the whole thing. And some silicone oil would help. It's so hard to get to because it's sitting in a recessed groove. So once you get it in there, it's not coming out without a fight and without damaging it. Of course, now this is you know, an old dried up O-ring, which is what you're going to be dealing with. Okay, so let's get our Harbor Freight box out. Obviously not the same size. As I remember doing it this way, you have to go a size up and squeeze it in there when you're doing it this way. So that is the 009. And that's the size out of the O-ring kit that you can replace that with. Now, they used to include a funny seal in the kits, the Russians did, and for the longest time I never could figure out where it went. We've got one around here somewhere. But if you bought some of these O-ring kits that were on eBay coming out of Russia a while back, you've got various O-rings. These two clear ones, this one, the smaller one, is for your front valve seal that we went over yesterday. And this one, that square profile toroidal shaped O-ring, finally figured out that it goes in here. It is an aftermarket seal that goes in there, and it works much better. than your traditional O-ring. Whoop. If you can get it in without losing it. Anyway, I'm not going to put that in there, but that's what that is. Now you could make this yourself. Show you how to do that. You can buy small sheets of cast urethane. I've seen them on Amazon. So this is 2 millimeters thick. So you'd want to be looking for a sheet of cast urethane 2 millimeters thick. Here I just happen to have some more parts. I'm going to go a little bit further into this, but I have a piercing needle in here that I need to have a look at. So that fits around the piercing needle like that. I'll just go ahead and give you the dimensions of this. .3 millimeters on the ID. .9 millimeters on the OD. So the way you would get this out of a sheet of cast urethane would be with a set of leather punches and get it close to those dimensions. It could definitely be smaller to go around that needle for the ID, but 9 millimeters is probably dead on for getting it to seat down in there properly. Now we'll just go ahead and check this down the rest of the way, because there is a filter in here that could cause you issues. Filters don't normally clog up with trash, and normally will give you a problem if they rust out. So I've never had any use for the filters, so you don't really need to even run them, but you've got this little cap, the flathead on it. Then your screen is in there. As I remember, all this stuff is kind of difficult to get out. But you can see if your screen is rusted, or you could dig in there with, pick like this, pull it out. You don't really need it. But that's what's on the end here. And let's figure out what size O-ring we got on the outside here in case that one's leaking. Now, I forgot to mention yesterday, you can tell how to, or where, anywhere you've got a leak. If you put, this was fully assembled, you put a CO2 cartridge in it, and just dropped it in the water, you would see where it's bubbling. Same goes for the air tube assembly for a Blackbird hopper. Kind of want to be a little bit careful doing that, but yeah, just pressurize it with you could do it with the piercing device. I don't use these, so don't ask me about these. I imagine it would have all kinds of leaks if you dunk this underwater with the Blackbird hopper, but I just use air in the hoppers. So if you just had the air tube out of a hopper connected to high pressure air, pressurized underwater, that would show you where you have any leaks. And something I've done many times, you just have to be careful, and I will not be held liable if you hurt yourself doing that. Looks about right, which is a 111. I think that would work. Of course, another safer way to do this would be to just tear the whole thing down and rebuild the entire thing, and then that way you wouldn't really need to dunk it underwater. When you get them back together though, on the valve body part where that seal, the valve seat and the valve seal together around the ring on the outside of the pin that your solenoid strikes, where air goes into that circular part, comes around and in, and where that pushes against your valve seat. Sometimes when you put it back together, if you gently apply pressure to it and don't put pressure to it like that, that'll leak a little bit. Usually that'll clear up if you just shoot it once. But other than that, that is your bog standard stick mag and how it goes together and seals and everything. Alright, later.